Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Be in the school newspaper club with friends. Halloween edition coming up. 2 friends and I get chosen to collaborate and write stories about local haunted places. Friend number 1 suggests we do the single-room schoolhouse as one of them. Friend number 2 says that is a great idea. We should go out at 2 a.m. and try to confirm if it is haunted. We all agree that is a pretty rad idea. What could go wrong? JPG. So we wait till the weekend and hang out during the day, get most of the just general info about the haunted places out of the way. We then gamed while we waited. Comes around 1 at night, and we decide to go check the haunted road in town, said to kill people since it is not too far from the schoolhouse. We have been there before, but not late at night, and it is a little spooky. But spoilers. No ghost truck tries to kill us. While on the road, friend 2 freaks out, saying he saw 2 little red dots staring at him from the ditch and it shivered him. We laugh at him cause we did not feel anything and said it was probably just reflectors the town puts in some places so you do not go off the road. He looked still a little shook but laughed it off. Friend 1 then remembers and tells us that he read that the road also has a black dog with red eyes that protects it at night. That spooked me a little and absolutely made friend 2 go completely stiff. Friend 2 started to get a little reluctant as we started to get closer to the schoolhouse, but we were able to reassure him that we were okay together. It is about 15 minutes until 2, and we pull up to the little gravel parking lot for the schoolhouse. You see, this schoolhouse is very old and is basically just a town attraction out in the wooded area. The school itself is a couple-minute walk through this nice-looking tree trail into the woods from the road. When we step out of the car, the air almost feels in what I can only describe as heavier. As soon as we stepped into the trail, the temperature dropped significantly, and I could see it on my friends' faces that they felt it too. I tried to rationalize it as the trees keeping the cold Midwest air trapped inside the woods and trail. Friend 1 is just trying to freak us both out and says it is for sure the ghosts surrounding us. Friend 2 just stayed silent and on guard. We are walking down this path only being illuminated by the flashlights we brought. It was quiet. There were no bats, no bugs, no scurrying animals, nothing. But the sounds of the leaves under our shoes when we walked and our breath. It only took like 2 minutes because we were walking a pretty brisk pace to just get this over with when our flashlights hit the schoolhouse down the trail. We lower our pace and begin looking around to see the school. It was still maintained well, but the town wanted to keep the authentic old-style look to it, sort of like pick-related. There is an old beaten-up stone well next to it with many of its stones lying around. Friend 1 and I go over to the well to take a look, and as we got close I could tell he was feeling it too, that there was something off with this well. Friend 2 stays behind on the trail just looking at the schoolhouse from a distance. Me and friend 1 are standing at the well, and you can feel the cold, moist air coming up from it. When we looked down, I got a cold shiver down my spine. It was like looking at complete blackness. We shined our lights down it, and we both breathed a sigh of relief and laughed a little when we saw water at the bottom. That was when we heard friend 2 start screaming from the trail, and we turned around to see his flashlight speed up and down as he was sprinting back down the trail. 1 and I look at each other confused and sort of half jog back over. We swing our flashlights around trying to see what's scared 2. I aimed my flashlight at the school entrance that we were about 15 feet from when my whole body went ice cold. Standing in the doorway of the school was a tall, pure black figure that was made very apparent by my flashlight. The figure had one hand on the door, and what looked like the other one reached out to us, almost like it was beckoning us over. One started screaming too and booked it back immediately, for he must be seeing what I was. I was almost paralyzed with fear for about 2 seconds before the dark person took his hand off the door and started to walk towards me. A rush of adrenaline flew through me like nothing else has ever given me, and I sprinted as fast as I could back to the car, not looking back. 2 was already in the car, and I was not too terribly far behind 1. But we all rushed into that car and booked it. Friend 1 just says, "Just so we are all clear." We all saw that black figure. Me and 2 give off soft yeses, and we were pretty silent the rest of the trip. It was when we got back we were actually pretty excited about the experience. We wrote some great stories. I do not think anyone ever really believed us, but that did not matter because the 3 of us were there. And I ain't ever going back to that fucking place at night.
Be me. Have to attend a special session to enroll in basic classes at a university. Made friends with 3 guys. They already knew each other because they came from the same high school. They asked me if I wanted to go hiking with them up to the university's observatory at around 5 p.m. University is arid and mountainous, but I have gone hiking before and thought it would be fun. Stop by the vending machine and get hiked up on sugar and the dew. I can feel my blood turning into syrup and my left arm going numb. Make it to the observatory, but there is a path that goes past the observatory and further in the mountains. Remember that cougars frequent the area and rattlesnakes. Tell them stories of Native Americans and skinwalkers. We all start dicking around and throw rocks and bushes to scare each other. Hills are getting steep and we slip and fall frequently. Some kind of fine rock powder gets all over us. There was little sunlight left, so we took some shitty phone pictures and head back to the observatory. There was actually no sunlight left. Start seeing things move in the brushes. Tell each other to stop throwing rocks because that shit is not funny anymore. Brisk walking pace. Turn on my camera and flashlight like a spurg because I think we are about to see some Blair Witch shit. Bushes start rustling more often. No one is throwing rocks. Very fast walking. Make it back to the observatory. See 2 girls out for a casual nighttime jog. Realize that we are complete brainlets who scared ourselves.
Not paranormal, but scared the shit out of me. B18. Drive to our cottage in the wilderness. Small village with only a few neighbors around. Being there, it really calms one at heart. It is like a city toned down by 20. Anyway, have 2 beers, have lunch, barbecue. Family settles playing cards, but I want to go the forest and explore. No one wants to. Say, screw it. Take the dog with me and go to the forest. The forest is medium-large, surrounded by cornfields, and you cannot get lost in it. Roads everywhere when you do. Explore for like an hour. Good times. The dog is having fun too, running around. This forest is leaves only. Try to find some mushrooms, but no luck. Suddenly the birds cannot be heard anymore. I think something is out of place here. The dog comes to my left side suddenly, like he is trained to do if there is danger. Growls. No sound for miles, just the forest leaves waving. Everywhere there is grass like 30 centimeters tall inside the forest. Stand there listening for a while, and nothing. Decide to walk along. Suddenly some black fog starts to rise out from the grass around me. Fuckme.jpg. Do not know what is going on. Dog loses its shit and woofs like crazy. Realize there is something wrong with the fog. It swarms. It was swarms of bugs, like thousands of them flying around at the same time. I was wearing a white shirt and Bermudas. I think it is just bugs. I am going to be fine. Look down. The white shirt is black now. Bugs everywhere. God damn it. Start losing my shit and the dog runs off to safety. I try to follow suit. Trip. Every inch of my body feels engulfed in those bugs. They are everywhere. In my mouth, in my hair, in my eyes, in my ears. Everywhere. Pick myself up and sprint out of there. Bugs hitting me in my face. I am screaming at this point, eating them in the process. Get out into the cornfield. Lie there and roll as if trying to put out a fire. My shirt is still black. Pat my shirt 1,000 times. Some come off, some do not. Persistent little things. Take a little breather there. Sit down. Call for the dog. Dog comes to me shaken. Scratches itself like never before. Take a look at its fur. Take one fucker out. Picture related. What the hell is this crab-like creature supposed to be? Try to squish it. Nothing. It withstands it. The dog whines. My head feels itchy. Run a palm through my hair. My palm now has 1,000 of these fuckers on it. I scream again. It took me hours to get those bugs out of my hair, even more to get them out of my dog. A few of them even bit me in my crotch. Anyway, not paranormal, but when it comes to bugs, they always scare me from that point on. Like what they are capable of and such as that.
15. Mom gets into magic. Literally tells me she is a white witch. Okay, weirdo. Dramatic change in energy in the home and bad luck. Bad high school breakup. Start to lose my way. Try praying intensely. Crucifix on a hooked nail popped off my wall. Gain a lot of weight, lose friends, become jaded with school, and begin failing classes. The day I stopped praying, I heard a loud bang in my basement. Sulfuric odor reeked in the living room next to the basement. Shit sputtered from the shower drain downstairs. My dog would stare into corners in the basement. Recorded a menacing voice in my room. One day before going out, I called out to my dad to say I am leaving. He just says my name like he wants me to come downstairs to find him. Too lazy for that. Go out anyway and see my dad pulling into the driveway. Tell my dad has a keen, unsurprised look in his eye. I think he drove it into my mom that she angered something. She started burning sage around the house, never explaining why. My sisters all heard or experienced similar things. My aunt used to practice magic with my mom. She lost her mind and burned her house down. She's in a nut house now. When I was back home 4 years ago, I had my first sleep paralysis where giant black spiders were walking all over my room and on my body. Haven't been back since.
The story I'm about to tell is much different and more of an account of strange events. Anyway, off we go. This takes place in the south of Brazil, in a city called Curitiba. In the downtown area, there's a shitty street that is infested with crime, drug traffic, abuse, but has been somewhat cleaned up, but not really. Lots of small bars and pubs popped up, and it has become a trendy all-tribes place that young people like to go to at night during the weekends. The place is called Rua Trajano Reis, Curitiba. I used to go there every now and then because a friend of mine owned one of the pubs on that street. As I mentioned previously, drugs are common here. In fact, they're so common, you're often approached by dealers asking, "What do you want?" Crack, cocaine, LSD, etc., out of the blue. It's that bad. So as I mentioned, a friend of mine used to own a pub there. The precise address was Rua Trajano Race, 369, Curitiba. You can Google it if you want, but I attached a pic so you can see it. Pic obviously related. This picture is from the time before it was renovated. I worked there during the renovation process, along with another friend of mine. Total time spent was around 3 months, and then another 2 months for extra details. This friend and I were the first to spend time in the building, and the first to see it after it was made available for business. An old lady died in this house. She was 77 years old and lived by herself in this gigantic house. You can't see it from the front, but it's really huge. About 350 square meters, if I remember correctly. Oh, when I say she died in the house, I mean she was killed by a drug user. Some piece of shit crackhead apparently broke into the house and knifed her in the throat. There are articles available on the internet about this case. I picked one such article to use it as a link here. This is the original in Portuguese, which I imagine many of you can't read. So here's one translated by Google to English, pic-related. Pic-related is what it looks like after it was renovated. So as you can see from the article, the owner of the house was killed in 2010. My friend decided to rent this place and open the bar in 2016. That means the house was closed off for 6 years. The sons of the owner were in a legal battle for ownership of the house, and they didn't even bother keeping it clean, so it was left in the state it was when the old woman died. When we entered the house, there was a disgusting smell of fluids everywhere, and insects on all corners of the house, cockroaches, brown reclusive spiders, etc. It was a shithole. So we soon got to work on this shithole. There was far too much to be done, so we were working all day every day, from morning till dawn. I often stayed till very late in the evening here by myself. I'm more of a bricklayer, and my friend was more of jack of all trades, master of none. So we ended up having to call in a plumber and an electrician for the things my friend couldn't fix himself. During the very first few days, my friend and I started noticing some weird things. Small things like tools missing, tools appearing in places none of us remember going to, etc. We were always of the banter kind, but when it was time for work, we had a very serious attitude, so this was pissing us off. The plumber we found was a very old guy, in his mid-70s. He wasn't one for talking much and preferred to be left to his own devices. I remember, though, on the very first day he came in for work, he started looking around the house and asked me why it was in such a state once I told him. He said he'd only work in the morning and by himself. I never really understood the work by myself part, but as long as he did a good job, I didn't mind much. The electrician was my brother's recommendation. A pair, an old fart and his son, who happened to be around my age. These guys were very goofy in a way, and I wasn't sure I could trust them. They were always arriving late, even on the first day. They were always making jokes, etc. Because the house was very old, for Brazilian standards, much of the electrical wiring went through the attic in a very erratic, unplanned way. Shit was a mess. The attic was entered through a very small opening, and there was no ladder attached to it. You had to bring your own to go up. So the electrician found himself a ladder, and the plumber kept working on his tasks. All was good and well for a while. The plumber, as I said, was a very traditional, old-fashioned old man, and didn't like to be helped at all. As the days passed, we started to notice that he was getting restless and really upset and started to curse a lot when by himself, which was most of the time. Not really sure what to do, I went up to him and asked what was going on. He'd blabber incoherently for long periods of time, never really answering the questions I was asking. You may think this would be the case for a guy in his mid-70s, but everyone who recommended this guy had amazing things to say about him. Even my own father worked with him in the past and vouched for him. He seemed to be very lucid before coming to work with us. Anyway, what I noticed is that he was going out of his way to fix things that didn't need fixing. He was even bringing materials that he bought on his own to fix problems no one had identified. But he wouldn't mention why or how he knew of them, and whenever you asked him to go because his work was done, he'd give you an odd death stare and just say something under his lip and keep working. Remember, this is the guy who said he'd only work in the morning. He was staying there until late in the night and would only leave once he noticed everyone was about to leave too. After a few weeks of this, I wasn't really sure what to do. He wasn't charging us for the repairs and seemed to not be bothering anyone else, so I figured I might as well leave him be. One day he comes up to me out of the blue and says I am done. He was done a long time ago. Smiles and leaves without saying another word or paying attention to me. I tried giving him money, but he didn't even bother looking. He just grabbed all of his tools and left. I tried calling him a few days later and he wouldn't answer. I asked my father to call him too, and he got the same. No response whatsoever. Final part. Sorry if it's uneventful. I did state this was more of an account of sorts. The goofy electrician and his son. They started working on the old wiring and soon began complaining about weird things, like they'd come out of nowhere and say, "What did you need?" What was that? No one was even close to them, but they'd swear they heard someone calling for them. They didn't really seem bothered by it, though. They weren't religious or anything like that, so I guess they thought we were pranking them or something. There was a day when these two were really late, think 3 or 4 hours late, for work, and because my friend and I had been on the construction site since early in the morning, we told them to come for work at night. We handed them the keys to the house and went home. On the following day, they came earlier than expected. It was like the only time these two were punctual. Actually, scratch that. The son was the only one who came, driving his father's car, and he said he spoke for both of them in that they wouldn't charge anything for the service they had completed up until that point, but they were also no longer going to work there. Now, that was something. I asked him what was wrong, and why didn't he want money that rightfully belonged to him. He said last night the father and I were working here, so he went to the attic as usual, and I was working on the first floor. Now I'm not really superstitious or anything, but there's definitely something wrong with this place. I kept hearing my father calling for me, but every time I went up there, he looked as though he hadn't even moved. He said he heard whispering and calling for him too all of the time, especially coming from the bedroom below, where the old lady used to live. He said he heard a phone ringing, PIC-related, I imagine, and heard people talking to each other. He kept saying he wouldn't stop hearing shuffling and steps. He made sure his father wasn't moving, but he kept hearing them. He said they were so strong he just couldn't bear staying there anymore. So they didn't finish the job and went home. Decided they wouldn't come back either. Now, through all of this, I myself had stayed in the house, during the night, by myself, quite a few times. I did notice some weird things here and there, but I attributed it mostly to the house being very old. You know, creaks, noises in general. It was an old house, so those were bound to happen. The worst that happened to me that I remember was the tools that kept missing and appearing in unexpected places all of the time, and this continued well after we finished the renovation process. Once my friend, the bar owner, opened the bar, he complained about this very same problem, things that went missing for no reason. One thing that caught my attention was some symbols that were fixed to the entrance of certain doors, 3 to be precise, 1 being her bedroom. I don't remember exactly what they looked like, but they had inscriptions in them that looked Aramaic. And I remember that the dumbass guy who worked with me on the house removed them on our very first day there. I wonder what those were and what was their purpose.
Kinda anticlimactic, but still sticks with me. Be like 8. I live in a shit area. Both parents work so home alone regularly with little brothers. Get off the bus one day with little brothers 1-6, and the youngest was 4, he just started school. I had to watch out for them as much as an 8-year-old could. Always kept the house locked because of the garbage area. Get inside the house and get my brother situated. Notice the front door is unlocked. Go to lock it. As soon as the deadbolt gets seated, like as soon as it was fully locked, someone tried to forcefully open the door. Scared me, and I did not know who it was. Too short to look out the peephole. Look out the side window, and there is a dude there with a crowbar trying to wedge the door open. My godfather, who was a cop, must have seen what was going on or something because he came over. The guy bolted, but they caught him later. Just some tweaker looking for stuff to steal.
I had a very strange experience 12 years ago in Starved Rock State Park, Illinois. It was so bizarre at the time I never discussed it. I began reading the Missing 411 stories a few weeks ago, and realize what I encountered fits into the Missing 411 profile. Additionally, since many of the Missing 411 stories border on the unexplainable and bizarre, I feel what I encountered was not unique, that it was part of an actual phenomena. Here is my story. I was visiting my girlfriend in Chicago. On a sunny and calm winter day, we decided to go for a hike at Starved Rock State Park, Illinois. I am an avid hiker, and being on leave from Iraq, I wanted to take in some cool, fresh air. We hiked in the park for several hours. In the late afternoon, we started heading back to the car. About half a mile away from the parking lot, we came into an area where tree branches were broken and pulled towards or over the trail. Most of the branches were broken high up, I'd say 8 feet and more off the ground. I'd lived in Washington before going to Iraq and knew something of the Sasquatch areas. So I told the girlfriend it looked like a squatch area, due to the branches broken off up high and pulled over the trail. That's about the time things started to get strange. Soon after mentioning this, I felt like someone was staring at me. It's like if you go in a room with a lot of people and someone is focused on you, you get an uneasy feeling and can tell you're being watched. It was like this, but stronger. I started to look around to see who was watching me. It was winter and the forest was visible hundreds of feet in all directions. There was a group of walkers several hundred feet behind us and no one in front of us, but I saw no one staring at me. As we passed through the squatch area, I began to have the feeling someone was behind me, following us. I looked around and listened, but saw and heard nothing. There were just the people 400 feet or so back on the trail, and they were talking amongst themselves. They weren't looking our way. The sense of someone being behind me was persistent, so I kept looking behind me, I'd say, at least twice a minute. But there was just the group way back. The feeling of being watched is one thing, but feeling like someone is close behind you is something else. It is more disturbing. I told the girlfriend to go further in front of me and let her go about 20 feet in front because I had a strong sensation of a nearby presence just behind us. So I turn around not more than 30 seconds since the last time I looked back, and there is this woman there. She was walking but coming up on me fast. There was something way off about her speed. She was walking when I spotted her, but her speed was much faster than her gait. It was as if she was on a people mover escalator like in an airport. She was coming up fast, and I'd say no more than 15 or 20 feet behind me when I saw her. I was rather alarmed and glared at her. She stopped when our eyes met. I gave her a look like, "WTF are you doing coming up on me like that?" We stood there staring at each other. Neither of us moved. She had her head cocked back to her left and looked at me from the corner of her eyes in a slightly alarmed, "you caught me" type of look. She was completely normal looking, like a local Chicago lady, late 50s, wearing a bright red winter coat, gloves, slacks, etc. In hindsight, there are a few other things besides her speed which stand out. The first thing is there was no sound, no footsteps, no rustling in the woods. Nothing to tell me to turn around other than the strong sense of something behind me, which I'd had for a bit. At the speed she was moving, she would have had to have been running hard, but I heard no footsteps. She was not breathing hard, and her mouth was closed. Her gait was a walking gait. She was not running. However, she was moving towards me at a running speed. I mean fast. When she stopped, I'd say she was less than 20 feet from me. At the speed she was moving in 1 or 2 seconds, she'd have been on me. The next thing that stands out is her features. She had no distinguishing features, none in her hair, skin, or clothing. No shadowing or skin hues, dimples, etc. There were none. I'd estimate her height at 5'10". Her clothes were of uniform coloring and indistinct. It was like she just stepped out of a department store. Her bright red coat was pristine with a uniform hue to it. There wasn't even shading, which should have been given the clear sky and low sun. After staring at each other for I'd say 5 to 10 seconds, I felt like I got my point across, so I turned around and continued walking. The girlfriend had not noticed anything and had continued walking. I took about 3 steps and realized there was no way she could have come up from that group in the 30 or so seconds since I'd last looked back. There was also nowhere to come from on either side. Visibility at that point was hundreds of feet all around. I said to myself, "No way," and spun back around. She was gone, simply vanished. I checked the group behind us, and no one had a red coat on or was looking at us. There was no one else around, and there had been no sounds other than my footfalls. The woman just vanished. From that point, it took us about 10 minutes to reach the car. For the remainder of the walk, I did not feel like I was being stared at or followed. I have never been back to Starved Rock State Park and have no intention of going back. The whole thing was bizarre. How was I supposed to tell anyone about that? So I never have. My mental state was fine. At the time, I was working a DoD IT contract in Iraq. I was well rested and relaxed being on vacation with the GF. There were no drugs or alcohol involved. These are strictly prohibited in my line of work and were grounds for immediate termination under MNFI's G01, which I was subject to at the time. I've carried this experience around for 12 plus years, being unable to talk about it because it was so exceptional and unexplainable. It's a relief to read similar stories of unusual encounters and disappearances. After reading many missing 411 accounts and the profile of disappearances, I believe I narrowly averted being snatched by whatever that thing was. I do not think it was the woman I saw. I think it was something different which I could not see.
Okay, I got one from recently. Be me. Used to be a scrawny little boy. Bad diet, bad sleep, bad attitude, etc. Have sleep paralysis all the time. Always would be giga, scary demons, ghosties, etc. Always scared shitless, just hoping it stops. Get actual sensation from them touching me. Ice fucking cold. I want to cry, scream, and run away, but I cannot fucking move. Fast forward years later, get fit. Eat healthy, good attitude, strong as fuck. Big boy coming through. Have not had sleep paralysis in years. Finally have it for the first time a few nights ago. I awake and find that I cannot move. Fucking annoying. Looking around. Then I see it in the dark half of my room, an even darker thing. Size of a small midge, black as space. Still cannot fucking move. It starts slow walking over to me. I am angry. Not like caught my wife cheating angry. Like star-shattering ass angry. Start shaking out of anger that this shadow manlet has the gall to challenge me at my most vulnerable. Start literally fucking growling because I cannot roar at this little ghost dwarf. At the peak of my anger, I feel like I am going to explode. Almost like it senses what will happen. It starts slowly moving backwards, disappears into the wall. Soon as it is gone, paralysis goes away. I leap out of bed naked. So fucking goddamn aneurysm mad. Rush over to the wall. Smack shit out of it. My natural instinct used to be one rooted, based in fear. Now it is one forged of fire and anger.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.